If you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering how can this mustache guy actually help me choose my first triathlon bike? Well, my friend, it's quarantine, so we're all making dumb decisions, and the mustache, I'm probably gonna regret it when I rewatch this video in like a few months. But nevertheless, I was in the same situation as you were. For those that don't know me, which is pretty much everybody at this moment, my name is Tim, and I am an Ironman triathlete at the age of 23 with a lot of experience, not so much money, and if somebody can help you choose a bike for a low budget, I'm probably the guy. So 3 years ago, I was pretty much in the same spot where you are probably right now. I wanted to buy myself an entry-level triathlon bike, but I didn't know what to look for. I was a college student and I had a very low budget. So whenever I would ask somebody what triathlon bike I should buy, they would recommend me very expensive options. So I decided to put this video to help you guys to find some key points that you should look for when you're actually choosing your own triathlon bike. So here are 5 things that you should look for when you're choosing your first triathlon bike. So to start off, the most important part of your bike should be the frame. Pretty much every other component of the bike can be changed out later in time, but the frame is a thing that stays. So you should definitely invest in a good stable frame, a good quality frame. The 2 main types of frames are aluminum frames and carbon frames. Now it might be a more pricey option at first, but I definitely recommend when you're buying your first frame, you should always go towards the carbon frame, even though the price is steeper at first. The reason for this is actually that pretty much every other part of the bike can be changed, while the frame is the one that stays, so it's the biggest investment. The frame is the most expensive part of every bike. Then again, if you cannot afford it, a good sturdy aluminum frame is definitely better than a cheap carbon frame. So you should definitely balance out your options and see what suits you the best. The second part that you should look out for is the gear set of the bike. There are multiple gear set manufacturers. You have Shimano, you have SRAM, you have Campagnolo, but you should definitely be looking out for entry level and above for racing. In my own experience, I definitely recommend Shimano 105 and everything above it. Why I recommend not going below Shimano 105? It's the mid lever shifter and the ability to shift both gears on your sides. So that's definitely a plus when racing. So of course, the more up you go, the better gear you're gonna have. But in my own opinion, I would rather go for a carbon bike with a 105 than an aluminum bike with an Ultegra group set. And we're going back to the part that I mentioned before. You can change out the group set later if your frame is good enough. So if you buy a good frame now and a good bike now with a 105, in 2 years, if you want to get more competitive, you can actually exchange it for an Ultegra or even Dura Ace if you manage to get a lot of money and you want to invest in that further. Of course, at that moment, you're probably going to be looking for another way cooler bike. The third thing you should definitely be looking at is aerodynamics. So every bike has a different purpose. A road bike for commuting is great for commute, and you can even go out for weekend rides on it. But if you want to go long term and if you want to ride that bike for a few years in races and plan on being better, then you should definitely invest in an aero bike. Of course, that's not all possible considering that you have a low budget at this point, but you should definitely look for more race-specific bikes. In my own case, I actually got myself a Cube GTC bike from 2016. It was a new bike, but it was in the store for 1 year, so the price dropped. The fourth recommendation is wheels. Wheels are definitely a contact point for the bike, which makes them super important. But considering that you're on a budget, they're not that important. You can go by with aluminum wheels and they're not gonna cause any problems for the start being. As I mentioned before, it's much better to actually buy an aluminum wheels with a carbon bike than carbon wheels with an aluminum bike, which is also not something you are gonna see a lot, but yeah, just putting it out there. Wheels are definitely something that should be regarded as an important point, especially later on the more you progress in the sport. But for starters, you can go with nice set of aluminum wheels. They're not gonna destroy your race. Now, when you go to your first race and you actually see those guys with the cool wheels and the disc wheels, something you're definitely gonna think is, oh man, I wish I had a bike like that. I know my first race I spent half an hour actually looking at other people's bikes, but that's a pretty negative way to look at stuff. Something you should be thinking actually is, okay, I got myself a carbon bike, I have good gears on it, and I'm probably gonna use my next upgrade to upgrade my wheels, and I'm gonna be on pretty much the same level. Later on, when you get more money, you're gonna be like those guys probably if you enjoy the sport. The final and fifth recommendation that I have for you guys is don't be afraid to buy used. There are many amazing bikes on your local web shops like eBay, Craigslist, and so forth, so you should definitely try and check those out. You have people that are trying to sell off their bikes so they can buy newer bikes. You're probably going to be doing the same thing in a few years. So definitely go out, see what you would like, and ask those people if you can check out the bikes. When checking out those bikes, you should definitely be looking at things that I mentioned a second before. So definitely give that frame a good check. Watch those gears, see that they don't slip, that they're not fully worn. Check the chain and make sure that the wheels are still in good condition, because they can take a real beating. A bonus recommendation for you guys is definitely look out at your local shops to see if there are new bikes which were released a few years ago. In my own experience, I bought myself a Cube GTC from 2016 in 2018, and I got a significant price cut for it. So you should definitely be checking out to see if your local shops have some bikes on the stock that are still not going away, but they have good specs. So those are the 5 tips, plus the bonus one that I actually recommend you guys. One more thing that I'm just gonna say at the end is don't be afraid to take it slow. Triathlon is a great sport. You have so much to learn from it, and don't rush it. Definitely take things easy. Try out your first few races, the sprint ones, the Olympic distance, and also you can, with the tips that I gave you, you can also try bigger races. I follow the same tips. Those are my experiences for half Ironman and Ironman, and I managed to do it. Definitely later on, as you progress, you should be looking for things like a proper TT bike, aero helmets, TT bars. I myself managed to complete a full Ironman on a standard road bike with no bars. I didn't even do a bike fit. With that being said, be sure to invest some money in a bike fit. It makes a huge difference. If you have certain pains or instabilities in your joints, you're definitely gonna feel it if you're doing a full Ironman, or any race in particular. So I definitely recommend for you guys to chip in some of that money, maybe not the first year, maybe after your first season, but invest in yourself and invest in your proper posture. Adjust your bike to yourself, because you're probably gonna be using it for a longer time. That will be pretty much it from me, and see you guys next time with more tips.